moving. Hi, good morning, everyone. Wow. It's been, I'd say, I think about a good 8 days now that I've consistently been posting on YouTube to this channel, hoping to provide content that will add value to other people out there that is looking to pretty much elevate to higher them and further align themselves to create a reality in life that they want to live. Um, and so today's topic I'd like to discuss about is the heavy subject of emotions and how they relate to us. And in this video, I want to do it in about 3 parts because it's a very loaded subject, as you would imagine, and just so that the video obviously doesn't get too long. But in these several videos, I'm going to break up the subject matter into several categories, in which consist of what emotions are. We can just revisit that. How did we learn emotions? Some myths about emotions, and then we can talk about the benefits and cons. And all in all, the goal here is really just to get you to understand what it is, and so that you get to create a life you want to create using emotion as a tool versus allowing this to be used by other people or by just to be misguidedly used and affect you in ways that you don't care to, because it keeps you from getting the things you want to get done, accomplished. And so with that, let's get started. Okay, what are emotions? We all know this one, right? Emotions are our temporal or pretty much temporary state of feeling, state of mind, oftentimes triggered by our thoughts, our beliefs. So this emotion could be obviously from a sad emotion to happy emotion. Prolonged sadness could be leading to depression, and other types of positive feelings that connects the emotions are feelings of gratitude. When you feel like you've accomplished something, you feel like you've received a lot of things in your reality, so you would feel very grateful for it. So this pretty much cultivates an energy that is very attractive, very positive. It opens up your heart for a lot of people that are into yogi type of philosophies and way of living. Other types are just love. When you fall in love with someone or a subject matter, you have this huge sense of pride and joy that comes up from from that connection. So that's a positive feeling. That's obviously an emotion. You have emotions of fear. That's a very powerful emotion. You just get scared about things that worries you because of an unknown future that sounds scary to you. Your control over events, your safety is no longer in your hands, so you just have this fear. And sometimes the fear is minor, where you can just easily overlook them. But other times, when the fear is very powerful, it just consumes you, and physically it makes you very drained of energy, lethargic, very uneasy. And if this kind of emotion prolongs, it becomes a lot more serious than just a fear. And so you have that, and we'll talk more about the positives and negatives of these types of emotions. And but as of now, we can easily agree on what they are. It's a temporary feeling that sometimes is good, serves us, sometimes bad, doesn't serve us. But at the same time, it does serve us when it's bad, in that it can teach us things if we stay alert to the things that we can learn from our experiences that had garnered this feeling of fear. So, but regardless of what they are, whether it's a happy emotion or a temporary or a sad emotion, just know that they're temporary. Know that if you just sat still with your emotions and don't act on them, it will soon just pass. Because just like anything else, your body and mind gets used to it, and when it knows that it can survive it, and it knows that it will survive it without your interference, without all of your thinking that perpetuates that feeling of fear and emptiness and pretty much fear of, or basically you lost all confidence in yourself. So that kind of fear we'll get to again, but know that it's temporary. It would resolve, but obviously if you don't know how to maneuver around emotions such as fear, it easily can stick around a lot longer and do more damage than it's designed to do. So that's what emotions are: temporary, non-permanent state of feeling. Okay. Number 2, how did we learn about these emotions? How did we first learn about emotions? A lot of people can say it's genetics. It's passed on from our parents. It's already ingrained within us as a human, so we're just going to come out of, the mother's gate, the mother's womb, just like, happy smile. It's all embedded in us. To me, that's very false, far from the truth. There's a lot of research that backs it up, but we can do that. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But for now, the 2 areas that I feel that we learned a lot of our emotions from the moment we were born is our parents, of course, and our environment. And I'll break that down. Our parents is a part of our environment. But environmentally, it's people such as friends and family, strangers. But let's say the people, the moment you were born, crying is not considered an emotion. Crying is just a form of communication. If you get slapped, you respond like, yo, it hurts. You're not shooting out an emotion. A kid doesn't sit there and be like, oh, you're hitting me, I must be unworthy. Kids don't know that yet. They haven't been taught they haven't been programmed those type of concepts yet. They came in just purely blissful, ignorant. You know how they say ignorance is bliss? That's exactly why. They don't know any fear. They don't know any negativity to see the world and just dread it like we have the older we get as humans, which isn't necessarily something that has to happen, but we'll get to that later on as well, maybe in another video. But learn it from your parents. The moment they see you, they probably, if the parents aren't too emotional, they may not do this, but generally what parents like to do in today's world, it could be a nurse or a doctor, but the moment you get in, rather than just slapping you and just communicate with you, okay, you're alive, you can make noises, I shouldn't have to check out your vocals, I shouldn't have to check out certain things that indicate that you're healthy from your crying. Okay, so but beyond that, sometimes nurses, or parents could easily try to incite you to show some kind of emotions by getting you to be like smiling, just being happy, laugh, just to connect with them, because we're also used to connecting with one another emotionally, especially when we you know, tend to live more on the surface, more superficially. We like to use emotions more because it's entertaining, you know, and it's very, very reminiscent of how things are done in media. So we like to replicate what things, people's emotions, excitements, life in media and Hollywood, because to us, that's what's cool, you know? So that's how we were conditioned from media, from our parents. And then now the moment our kids were born, unconsciously, we're shooting that same energy over to our kids, you know? And then throughout their lives, without even recognizing this, we're doing the same thing with not just those basic emotions, but it gets more complicated, more fearful involved, more depression, more sadness, more guilt, more pride in family, just all kinds of emotions. You're constantly being conditioned with emotions by your environment indirectly. And because you were naive when you were young, you take in all of these emotions without questions. You know, nowadays, you, as an adult, a lot of people still do. They still ride the emotions that they had been conditioned by from the beginning, and not really assessing that tool, not seeing that emotion outside of them, how they had developed it, and how they can really step outside of it, control it as a tool, instead of thinking that it's them and that they have to live this way forever, and that they would just have to ride the waves of their emotion depending on the day of the week, you know? So um, those are, that's the first factor: people, the environment around you, first and second. An environment could be considered this third factor, but this is such a strong third environmental factor that I'll have to, of course, give it its own section, and that's media. You know, there is no media in today's world that can be made successfully in Hollywood to, you know, make money without getting you onto that roller coaster ride of emotions. You know, so within movies, any movies, you know that they have to have a state of happiness and a state of sadness. And the movies a lot of times would fluctuate between the two, because, you know, it's a movie. It has to be entertaining. It has to like get you high and low, because that's a drug. That's what we want to feel. You know, we want to go through these emotions, and the sounds and the things we see all contribute towards it. But if you um so that's why we think life has to be like that. So unconsciously we don't realize it, but when we watch movies as kids and even as adults, since a lot of adults are unconscious despite being older, but they watch movies, and in their mind, without really turning on that switch and allowing them to realize that everything within the movie is not real. Everything, emotions, people's events and whatnot, you have to turn it all off, because if you don't do that, your mind can easily see like half the thing that's real, and anyone else that wants to be able to inject other psychological, emotional triggers in there can inject that in there. And because you recognize like 50% of the story and the actors in there looks real, you know, the events looks real, at least I'm familiar with it, then you unconsciously accept the rest of the information a lot of the times, maybe not all of them, but your guards are down, so you can easily be embedded these kind of emotions, beliefs, thoughts unconsciously without even knowing. So um so that's the third thing: Hollywood media. Without that, oh man, it's believe me, we would all be so much more stable emotionally. But at the same time, without the influences of media, I don't know if life would be equally superficial and equally fun, you know? So I'm not against Hollywood by any means. Okay, I just understand that media such as Hollywood and commercials, marketing, corporations in their medias, they are designed to influence and to make you act on them. Okay? And then I'll get more to that later on when I talk about the benefits and cons of emotions. And lastly, myths about emotions. That everyone has to have it. You know, you come out of your mother's womb, you don't show any kind of emotions for a while, you're gonna be probably considered as a weird kid, you know? But on the flip side, to me, a kid that is stoic, very stable in mind, clear decisions, yeah, not as fun as a lot of the kids that goes around hyper, energetic, smiling, laughing, joking around, things like that. But, you know, those kind of kids can be unruly too. So pros and cons. Yeah, you're more familiar with the kid that acts up and having fun, jumping around, you know, and this kid that is boring gives you no qualms, no problems, but they don't look like the kids that you're used to seeing because of your conditioning. So you think they're unhealthy, where they could easily be very healthy, even healthier than you, just being unjaded by life and, you know, like less conditioned. One myth, emotions, that it's something you have to have. No. And I'll give you an example. Monks, you know, they've worked their entire life just to eliminate the emotions and not eliminate it in a sense where they won't feel it again, because those emotions, a lot of monks, despite going to a monastery, it takes a lot of effort in order to get to the level where you don't allow your emotions to affect you, where you're completely separate from it, where you can easily still call it up so that you can use it for certain things, but you can easily live without it, like it on the side. Like it's just an emotional tool, and you can set it aside. I don't need to use this tool. I can go on life without it. Like your clothes you're wearing, they're all temporary. Choose another emotion. Be thoughtful about your emotions. All of those stuff you can do. So no, it's not you. Your emotions is not you. You don't have to have it. Number 2, Stoics. If you don't already know the philosophy of Stoicism, Stoicism is about understanding, to me, essentially, it's about understanding emotions. That's one big part of Stoicism, understanding your emotions and basically make judgments in a clear mind without your emotions, unless you're consciously using that emotion towards your benefit to make that decision. But when you're under an emotional state, typically it's not good for decision making, just because it's either misleading you to think everything is good or misleading you to think everything is bad. And that perspective tends to be, you know, very biased, versus a balance of both, and just moving forward with a calm state of mind, rational between, you know, pros and cons, and still being positive. You can still be very positive without, you know, being emotional, like, oh, it's gonna happen, yeah, it's gonna happen, you know, unless you do it consciously. But if you live like that and constantly have to feel like, yo, I have to react that way towards everything, you know, just to be normal, just to make things happen, no, you don't. And from what I realized, the people that are calm and are stoic, they manifest even faster, just because of their detachment, and the ocean within their mind and body is very still, you know, because they don't have so much emotional activity, you know, inside their head. You have to realize that emotion is energy in motion. That's what it is. Energy in motion. Energy, motion. So the moment you want to, you know, you have this energy inside you that is constantly moving because of your emotion. When you're unstable, the mind and the body is very not still. So the things you want to accomplish, that requires stillness, focus, tends to get diluted because there's so much movement within your sea of thoughts. So in that way, practice stoicism, look into that, and that totally, I think, further will allow you to see why emotions is such a subject outside of yourself that you can easily control, that ultimately you're going to be a master of emotions if you study the realms and just everything about emotions that people have studied through the years, and have fun with that journey. And if you'd like to hear what I've alluded to prior in this video about the pros and cons, part 2 of this video, please stay tuned and check out the other video, as I'm approaching 20 minutes already, and I find myself talking a little faster just to stay within the video's range that I desire. But see you then. Okay, thank you very much for tuning in. I hope this video had helped you a lot, even without the pros and cons. Okay, see ya.